Hello folks, and welcome to another spooky story here on my channel. I apologize for not uploading very much lately. I know I promised something new and special and creative, but unfortunately a combination of technical difficulties and writer's block have sort of put that on the back burner for now. I am still working on stuff. I promise I'm still working on this special project. It's just between the issues I've been having plus starting back up at work has meant that I've not have as much time to devote to this as I would have liked. So it will still come eventually. It's just it's been a bit difficult to work on it at this particular moment in time. But oh, you have to honk right now. But it is coming. I hope in the not too distant future. We'll have to see how things go. So thank you for choosing to spend some time with me here once again for another spooky story. Before we get into it, I'm just going to give the same warnings that I always give on all of these videos, regardless if they specifically apply to what I'm reading for you here today, just because I don't plan ahead very well. Warning number one, these are Victorian and Edwardian stories that we consume on this channel. And one of the many downsides to those time periods is, of course, the attitudes displayed therein towards things like race, gender, orientation, sexuality, religion. It may come up. Whenever I'm reading something for you, that may well come up. And of course, these attitudes are often things that as a group, as a whole, we have hopefully moved past, moved beyond, and don't hold those views anymore, but nonetheless, they are present in the original texts, and I don't really believe in censoring those things for you. However, if those things sound like they aren't going to be your cup of tea, feel free to move on and not consume this content. And of course, the other warning is that spooky ghost stories often have their origins in unpleasant circumstances. So murders, suicides, really just unpleasant things often do come up. So again, bear that in mind and decide whether or not this content is going to be right for you. If it is, wonderful, please stick around. If it's not, feel free to, again, move on and just not consume the content. There's no sense in upsetting yourself like that if you don't have to. So today we have, we have a shorter story. It's called The Tomb by a 19th century French gentleman by the name of Guy de Maupassant. He was a very interesting individual. Wrote, quite prolifically. If you were to look at his list of just short stories alone, he's often regarded as being one of the founders. Not necessarily the founders, but how should I explain this? He is very much a short story kind of writer. He does have novels published, but really a short story kind of guy. Pardon me. So, a prolific writer, wrote, as I said, a lot of things are very well known. The Tomb, for example, is a very popular work of his. Some of his work tends to run a little pessimistic sometimes, so again, a thing to be aware of. He was well known also to, especially in his later years, prefer very much solitude, being alone. Often other people regarded him as being a little odd, maybe a little paranoid towards the end of it. However, he also is well known, unfortunately, for a suicide attempt wherein he cut his own throat. It is unclear, I've been doing some digging, it is unclear whether that might have been the result of a mental illness or a side effect of the syphilis that he and possibly also his brother were thought to have had. Well, not thought to have had, like he died of syphilis, so clearly he had it. is interesting, though, because, of course, he did know he had it in his lifetime, and some of his works do deal with the supernatural from the perspective of, is this actually something crazy paranormal going on, or is this just the product of a troubled mind? And that is going to be very much a theme throughout our short story, The Tomb. So I would like to apologize in advance just for my misspeakings in general. But in particular, in this episode, I feel like I should apologize in advance for the mispronunciations of the French that I'm about to inflict on you. I haven't spoken French with any regularity for years at this point, so there will probably be some errors. But I have my beverage, I have our book, and without any more preamble, let's get into it. The Tomb by Guy de Maupassant. On the 17th of July, 1883, at 2:30 in the morning, oh, that's early, or late, either way, the caretaker of Béziers, I'm already messing up the French, I'm going to say Béziers, that's probably incorrect, but for consistency, I'm going to go with that. The caretaker of Béziers Cemetery, who lived in a little house at the end of the burying ground, was awakened by the yelping of his dog, which was locked in the kitchen. He immediately went downstairs and saw that the animal was scenting something under the door and barking furiously, as though some tramp had been prowling about the house. Vincent, the caretaker, took up his gun and went out cautiously. I don't know, Vince. That's a lot of horror movies start that way. Vincent, there, you might want to... I mean, he's got the gun. Still, I don't know. I don't know if I would be stepping out of my house like Vincent is here. I feel like this could end poorly. His dog ran off in the direction of General Bonnet's Avenue. I guess I should be saying that the French way. So General Bonnet's Avenue, and stopped short in front of Madame Tomisso's monument. The caretaker, advancing cautiously, probably a good idea there, soon noticed a dim light in the directions of Malvers Avenue. He slipped in amongst the tombstones and witnessed a most horrible deed of desecration. A young man had disinterred the corpse of a young woman, buried the day before, and he was dragging it out of the grave. A small dark lantern, placed on a pile of earth, lit up this hideous scene. Vincent, the caretaker, pounced upon the criminal. Felled him to the ground, bound his hands, and took him to the police station. Well done, Vincent. Jeez. He handled that situation very well. Although I will say, if you're a groundskeeper at a cemetery, graveyard in the 19th century, you're probably, it's horrible to say, but you're probably semi-used to body snatchers, or the idea of body snatchers, given that it was kind of a problem for a long, long time. He was a young lawyer from the city, rich and well thought of, maybe not for too much longer. His name was Courbataille. We'll go with Courbataille. He was tried. The public prosecutor recalled the monstrous deeds committed by Sergeant Bertrand and aroused the audience. So he's making reference to like another grave robbing case to try and rile people up. The crowd was thrilled with indignation. As soon as the magistrate sat down, the cry arose, "Put him to death! Put him to death!" The president had great difficulty in restoring the silence. Putting him to death seems a bit harsh for grave robbing. I don't know. There were so many, especially in English law, there were so many offenses that could end in hanging. I don't know if that was still a thing by the late 19th century, but there was definitely a lot of things that could be punishable by execution, where you'd be like, it seems a little harsh. And I think grave robbery is maybe one of those things. But then, I don't know, they didn't really have a prison system the way, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that's a bit much. Then he said in a serious tone of voice, "Accused, what have you to say to your defense?" Courbataille, who had refused counsel, that seems like a poor choice, arose. He was a handsome youth, large, dark, with an open countenance, strong features, and a fearless eye. I mean, dude's a grave robber, so... The crowd began to hiss. He was not disconcerted, but commenced speaking with a slightly husky voice, a little low in the beginning, but gradually gaining in strength. Your Honor, gentlemen of the jury, I have very little to say. The woman whose tomb I violated was my mistress. I loved her. Not sure I like the implied direction of where this is. What were you going to do with her body, Kobatai? What were you going to do? I loved her, not with a sensual love. Let's be honest, it was probably pretty sensual at times. Not simply from kindness of soul and heart, but with an absolute perfect love, with mad passion. Listen to what I have to say. When I first met her, I felt a strange sensation upon seeing her. It was not astonishment, nor admiration, for it was not what was called love at first sight, but it was a delightful sensation, as though I had been plunged into a tepid bath. That actually sounds kind of gross. He and I have different standards, I suppose, for what falling in love should feel like. I don't know that anything I find pleasant I would describe as being like tepid bath water. Her movements captivated me. Her voice enchanted me. It gave me infinite pleasure to watch everything about her. You sound friggin' creepy. It also seemed to me that I had known her for a long time, that I had seen her before. She seemed to have some of my spirit within her. Yeah, you're creepy. Probably looking through her windows and shit. She seemed to me like an answer to an appeal from my soul, to this vague and continuous appeal which forces us towards hope throughout the whole course of our lives. Okay, she's your manic pixie dream girl, I guess. When I became a little better acquainted with her, the mere thought of seeing her again filled me with a deep and exquisite agitation. The touch of her hand in mine, was such a joy to me that I had never imagined the like before. Her smile made my eyes shine with joy and made me feel like running about, dancing, and rolling on the ground. Then she became my mistress. There it is. She was more than that to me. I mean, you could have married her, bud. You know, some stability for her. I'm sure that would have been nice. She was my life itself. I hoped for nothing more on earth. I wished for nothing more. I longed for nothing more. Well, one evening, as we were taking a rather long walk by the bank of the stream, we were caught by the rain. She felt cold. The next day she had inflammation of the lungs. 8 days later, she died. During those dying hours, astonishment and fear prevented me from understanding or thinking. When she was dead, I was so stunned by brutal despair that I was unable to think. I wept. During all the horrible phases of internment, my wild, excessive grief was the sorrow of a man beside himself. A sort of sensual, physical grief. Why'd you have to make it creepy? You were doing so well, then you made it weird. Then when she was gone, when she was under the ground, my mind suddenly became clear, and I passed through a train of mental suffering so terrible that even the love she had given me was dear at such a price. Then I was seized with an obsession. I shall never see her again. After reflecting on that for a whole day, it maddens you. Think of it. A being is there, one whom you adore, a unique being, for in the whole wide world there was no one who resembles her. This being has given herself to you. With you she creates this mysterious union called love. Her glance seems to you vaster than space, more charming than the world, her bright glance full of tender smiles. This being loves you. When she speaks to you, her voice overwhelms you with happiness. And then suddenly she disappears. Think of it! She disappears not only from your sight, but from everybody's. She is dead. Do you understand what that word means? Never, never, never more, nowhere will this being exist. Those eyes will never see again. Never will this voice, never will any voice like this among human voices pronounce one word in the same way that she pronounced it. There will never be another face born like hers. Never, never. The cast of statues is kept, the stamp that reproduces objects with the same outlines and the same colors is preserved, but this body and this face will never be seen again on this earth. And still, there will be born thousands of beings, millions, thousands of millions, and even more. And among all these women, there will never be found one like her. Can that be possible? It makes one mad to think of it. Which, for everything else I've said and will say, I think that's actually a very interesting way to think of death and dying. I think anybody who's ever lost someone that's quite close to them, this is the thought process, right? Like this being is gone. This being will never exist again. They will never again be here on earth. This is it. I will never see them again. I will never hear them again. I will never speak to them again. They have ceased to be. And yeah, that's kind of a mindfuck when you think of a person who was living and breathing and thinking and speaking and existing in the world and interacting with the world around them, and then they're gone. And all of that stops. That's like I'm kind of with him on this. Like, it makes you mad to think of, because that does sound really crazy. All of this person's thoughts and emotions and their experiences, it's gone. It's all gone with them. Anyway, back to the story. She lived 20 years, no more, and she has disappeared forever, forever, forever. She thought, she smiled, she loved me. Now there is nothing more. The flies which die in the autumn are of as much importance as we in creation, nothing more. And I thought how her body, her fresh, warm body, so soft, so white, so beautiful, was rotting away in the depths of a box under the ground. And her soul, her mind, her love, where were they? Never to see her again, never again. My mind was haunted by the thought of that decomposing body, which I, however, might still recognize. I was on board, but I think I'm off again. I set out with a shovel, a lantern, and a hammer. I climbed over the cemetery wall. I found the hole where her grave was. It had not yet been entirely filled up. I uncovered the coffin and raised one of the planks. An awful odor, the abominable breath of putrefaction, arose in my face. Oh, her bed perfumed with iris. However, I opened the coffin and thrust in my lighted lantern and saw her. Her face was blue, swollen, and horrible. Black liquid had flowed from her mouth. I mean, yeah, that's how decomposition works. It was she! I was seized with horror, but I put out my arm and caught her hair to pull this monstrous face towards me. It was at that moment I was arrested. You were seriously going to pull her up by her hair? It was like a little weird. He's lucky your whole scalp just didn't come with it. You think it's horrific now, buddy. Wait till you're just holding that in your hand. You'll shit yourself. And possibly, just go completely round the twist. Who knows? That sounds like it would be super traumatic. Mind you, like digging up her grave to admire her corpse and then be like, oh my God, like that's also kind of crazy and weird, but whatever. All night I carried with me, as one retains the perfume of a woman after a sexual embrace, the smell of this putrefaction, the odor of my beloved. Do what you like with me. Again, you made a little weird there. Could have just stopped after perfume of a woman. I mean, like, it's kind of like, is it just me? It's like kind of, like I said at the start, there's an implication. Ugh. A strange silence seemed to hang over the hall. People appeared to be awaiting something more. The jury withdrew to deliberate. When they returned after a few minutes, it's awful quick. Mind you, it's not like it's murder. The accused did not seem to have any fears, nor even any thoughts. In the traditional formula, the judge informed him that his peers had found him not guilty. He did not make a movement, but the public applauded. And that was The Tomb by Guy de Maupassant. As I said, a bit of a shorter one today. But I hope you enjoyed it. It is a bit different. It's not a ghost story like we normally do here, but I thought the emotions being conveyed were very, very interesting, and it was just interesting to hear the thoughts, and because grief does do kind of crazy things to people and to families. There's lots of people that have stories about things going down at funerals or after a death in the family and things like that. So I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, please like, subscribe, please share the videos around and help other people find some of these stories and some of these authors, because they are super cool. As always, if you have any requests, please leave them in the comments below this video. Thank you for spending some time with me here today. I hope you and your loved ones are safe and well and happy, and hopefully we will meet up again soon. Goodbye, everyone.